Hello and welcome to SweetSpotDFS. It's your DFS preview and strategy video for the 2021 Tokyo Olympics, or I should say the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, since it was postponed last year and everything is tagged with that 2020 Tokyo Olympics name. The reason that I'm combining both the preview and strategy videos is because I'm not going to be talking about the bucket system. There's not enough data, because the only other Olympic tournament that we played for golf was in 2016. So we don't have any last year stats. We really don't have any tournament history or course history stats. So we won't be talking about those two things. And the rest of it, we just don't have enough data, period, for Olympic golf. I thought about using other tournaments that are similar, like these limited field events. There's 60 golfers in this field, so that's very similar to a WGC event. But I thought, since this is such a worldly event that isn't just strictly to the PGA Tour or even the European or the Euro Tour, it didn't make sense to do the buckets. Now, you will see bucket scores next to the golfers on the 2021 DK page. Don't mind those. Those are just there, basically. I mean, there are strokes gained buckets that I did provide, and that still has some merit to it, because it's obviously looking at off the tee stats. It's looking at your major four stats and ranking them based off of the combinations. So we will talk about that a little bit, but for the most part, we're scrapping the bucket system for this event. And we'll be looking at what we typically do in preview videos and strategy videos. So like in the preview, we usually look at weather, usually look at tournament fact sheets, but that's not provided here. Looking at a course breakdown. So we'll look to see if there's a shot shape that matters or not. And then we'll jump into the strategy video portion of it and look at the SweetSpot rank as well as the tee time pairings. And then I also will cover Marquee tee time pairings, because we do have those here. And I'll explain how I did that for this event. And then maybe we'll create some lineups at the end. Who knows? We'll see. You can find all of my timestamps in the description below, but you can also find them on YouTube's progress bar by hovering over it. It should be cut up into segments, and you can get to each part of the video very easily that way. And you can see what I'm covering. So that's where you can find those timestamps. Let's go ahead and get into this thing. I don't want to start here. Let's start with weather. Why not, right? By the way, when I'm recording this on a late Tuesday night. I think by the time I post this, you're going to have nearly 12 hours, maybe 13 hours to make your lineups. So if you catch this late and you see that it was posted 13 hours ago or whatever, you might be too late to create a lineup. I'm guessing most of you aren't going to be, but just letting you know in case you didn't know. Weather. We are in, I think, Saitama. No, it's not Saitama. It's Saitama, Japan. Just so you guys know, I believe that's where the golf course is being played, from all my research letting me know. And this is the weather, what it looks like. Thursday, Friday is really what we're paying attention to. Actually, it's a no-cut event, so yeah. We want to look at all weather. Looks like a lot of rain, honestly, and there are thunderstorms, so that's probably going to halt play. I don't know really the strategy we want to deploy, because if I could tell you, hey, there are going to be thunderstorms at 2 p.m., perhaps we want the morning wave golfers because they won't have to deal with the delay. But on the flip side of that, if it's a little bit earlier, maybe we want the afternoon golfers because they'll be going on a golf course that's going to be wet. It's going to be easy to score on, all that kind of stuff. So it's tricky. We can't forecast this thing. Weather's, very, very difficult to pinpoint. So I wouldn't really worry about your tee time splits. But usually your PM AM wave has a slight advantage than the AM PM wave. I know they're going off tee times, they're all going off a hole one, and it's all throughout the day. So there really isn't an AM PM per se, but there is. There will be PGA Tour, or not PGA. There's golfers teeing off in the morning on a Thursday, but they'll be teeing off in the afternoon on Friday. So there are splits. So be mindful of that. But I don't think weather is going to matter. Looks like it's like 90 degrees and we're going to see a lot of thunderstorms. Yeah, I mean, I would definitely favor those teeing off in the afternoon on Thursday, but that's not the end all be all. Just use it as a tiebreaker. And really, there isn't anything else to talk about weather because the wind doesn't look like it's that big of a deal. You know, we're looking at somewhere between 10 and 15 miles an hour each day, sometimes 5 to 10. So, I don't think weather is going to be, I mean, it's going to affect the golf, but it's going to be really hard to pinpoint. We're looking for wind. You know, that's where we're trying to find our advantage. This rain and thunderstorm stuff is going to be really difficult to predict when it happens and, you know, what kind of delays it's going to provide. So we're going to go ahead and go past weather because it's not that big of a deal and get right into the course breakdown. So I was able to watch 2 videos that were actually pretty good. I'll link them in the description below. So if you want to go look at the flyovers of each of them, there was even like a narration of each of the holes. So that was kind of cool. If you want to see that, obviously, again, just click on those links in the description. But it's a flyover of holes 1 through 9 and then 10 through 18. And it gives you a really good idea of what the golf course looks like. So I have a lot of, I have descriptions for each hole. I'm not going to read them, but I'll give you the opportunity to. Obviously, just pause the video and read what I have written. Not that big of a deal if you do, if you don't, because I'm going to be talking about what I have here. This is kind of my summary for shot shapes. And off the tee, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't require you to hit certain shot shapes, or since say certain, it doesn't require you to hit a lot of, you know, a lot of a draw or a fade off the tee. So off the tee, we're okay. We can hit whatever shot we typically want on each of the holes. On approach, it's kind of a little bit different. We have a good mix of holes where we need to draw the golf ball into the green and where we need to fade the golf ball into the green. So definitely a worker man's, that's probably not what I want to go with. I don't want to use like generic terms like an artist's golf course, but it does require you to shape shots both directions. So those of golfers that can do that probably going to benefit from it, but it's definitely not an end all be all. It's just one of those beneficial things. So as you can see, there's not one shot shape that really is favorable over the other, although we do have two shots where a fade is going to matter more than a draw, but it's pretty close. I'm not going to favor one over the other, but if I definitely see a golfer who can hit both shot shapes, I'm definitely going to favor those types of golfers. So we'll add that to kind of looking at the strategy piece coming up here. But what I want to talk about is the SweetSpot rank. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and put a filter on this. I'll actually hide this so we have more to look at. And I want to go over my SweetSpot score, or the SweetSpot ranks. What I ended up doing for the rankings, so I'll tell you the stat categories I went over. We're looking at official world golf ranking. We're looking at bent grass stats, overall dating back to 2013, top 10 success percentage. Basically, that's what that means. So actually, it should be success rate, finishing inside the top 10 on bent grass because that's where we are. I forgot to mention that. The course, I should have put that right here. So I kind of have this in the notes. It's a little difficult to see. But greens equal bent grass. And fairways, we'll just go F-ways, equal zoysia. So those are your two grass types. Bent grass on the greens and zoysia, I think, everywhere else. I'm not positive about the rough, but I do know that's in the fairways and on the tee boxes. So definitely look at that. Anyways, going into this, the grass stats are the bent grass. I'm not looking at zoysia anything. I'm just looking at bent grass stats. So that's what I have. I've weighted the 2021 grass down a little bit, so I don't want there to be a huge favor to those that have good 2021 bent grass stats, but I still want to give them a little bit of an advantage. And then, of course, we're looking at all the other stats that we typically do: bogey avoidance, birdie or better, recent form DraftKings average, recent form average. That sounds funny. But recent form scoring average. These are all your recent form stats, and then these are your season-long stats with DK average and scoring average. So all of those create a score, and based off that score, I have a ranking. And these are your top 20 golfers that you see on the screen. Starts with Xander. Xander's my number 1 golfer this week at the Olympics Golf. And he's not the most expensive golfer, so keep that in mind. Colin Morikawa he's my number 2 golfer. And then followed up by Rory, who also isn't really that high priced. He is cheaper than both Justin Thomas and Hideki Matsuyama. So there's some value there with Rory. And it seems like a trap because I usually like to play Rory and it just never turns out. But these are my top ranked golfers. Joaquin Niemann, 9,200, seems like the best value on the board when we see kind of, the salaries we see. But here are your top 20 golfers. I'm not going to talk about all of them, but one of the biggest surprises is Johnny Vegas here at $7,400. He's my 14th ranked golfer, followed by Sebastian Munoz and Siwoo Kim, which obviously is, if you're following all the narratives, he needs to medal in order to skip military service. So him and Sung Jae Im are both looking to accomplish that. So him being inside the top 20, I like his chances. Looks pretty good. And then Mackenzie Hughes kind of rounds out the top 20. And then there's Christian Bezuidenhout, who sneakily I think is one of the better plays here. So we'll talk more about that. But with the SweetSpot ranks, if I go and sort by game, I will highlight their rankings if all 3 golfers in the game, in their group or pairing, whatever you want to call it, have a score under 40. So there's 60 golfers here, and my buddy, Mr. Guru Nick, kind of came up with this it's called the 2/3 rule. So you look at 2/3 of the field, and if you have a pairing that's, cumulative SweetSpot rank score is under that 2/3 score. So obviously, again, we have 60 golfers in the field. 2/3 of that is 40. If each of the golfers, the rankings of each of those golfers equal under 40, then I'm going to highlight them with a dark green color. And that's going to be my Marquee tee time pairings. And really, the Marquee tee time pairings are the golfers you kind of want to focus on. Now, I got a little ahead of myself last week and kind of claimed that every single week we've seen at least 2 optimal lineup golfers in the Marquee tee time pairings. It failed last week after I said it. So I don't know if that was because of the SweetSpot rank. I mean, that's highly, that's probably the case, is the SweetSpot score just wasn't that great. And if it was better, maybe we would have found a second one. We found one optimal lineup golfer, but that was it. I'm blaming it on the score. I didn't add the 2021 golf, the grass stat to that tournament last week, and maybe that was the case, or maybe that was the cause. Maybe it wasn't. Either way, we're gonna look at Marquee tee time pairings too, because those are probably gonna be. I'm probably going to still select 2 golfers from the Marquee tee times to anchor my lineups around. So we'll go over that. But let's talk about some of these groupings and see if anything really stands out that should have been maybe highlighted a little bit better. The first group that I want to talk about is Carlos Ortiz, Guido Migliozzi, and Antoine Rosner. If I scroll over, I'm kind of looking at their official World Golf ranking. Each of them are under, or they're ranked inside the top 100. Carlos Ortiz probably that and the FedEx points. So let me back up. I'm getting kind of I want to talk about something, and because it's on my mind, I'm stalling a little bit. Strength of field. I want to talk about strength of field really before I go into these T10 pairings. Strength of field 327. Last week it was 220 something, and that was a 156 man field. So 327 is actually pretty decent. I can't remember what tournament it rivals, like a PGA Tour event, but 327 is pretty good. And I kind of want to talk about, the points that's provided for each of these groups, but then I don't. Then never mind. Because like there's a reason why the rankings are the way they are. It does look at official World Golf Ranking, and obviously a lot of these groups aren't good enough. So never mind I said that. Let's move on. First group I want to talk about, Carlos Ortiz, Guido Migliozzi, and Antoine Rosner. I like this group, and I think it could have actually been ranked under that 2/3 rule. So it could have been one of the marquee T10 pairings that we want to talk about. But with Guido and Antoine, because they don't play a lot of PGA Tour events, they don't really get the love that the other golfers in this tournament do. And had they had enough PGA Tour events under their belt, primarily the strokes gain stats, this is probably a group we're talking about. Maybe not, because Carlos Ortiz is always going to be ranked 23rd. He is on the PGA Tour. This ranking would not have changed. It actually might have gone up if Migliozzi and Rosner went down. So just keeping that, or letting you guys know about that. One group, now that I see it, Sebastian Munoz, Henrik Norlander, and Joachim Hansen. I don't know much about Hansen, but Munoz and Norlander, they can score super low. And if this is going to be kind of a decent scoring tournament, especially with all the rain that's coming in, this is actually a decent tee time pairing to actually focus on. Like Norlander, $6,800. That's not terrible. Munoz, $7,700. That's a pretty good price to build lineups around. And if you want to take a risk, Joachim Hansen might just be kind of the leverage play that would be good here. I'm not personally gonna play Joachim, and if I do, maybe it's one lineup. But I'll probably stay away from him. Anyways, let's move on. The next one we talk about, Mackenzie Hughes, Alex Noren, and Jazz Jane Watananon. I don't mind this group altogether. 8,000. It's one of those biased things that is difficult to play a Mackenzie Hughes. Not so much an Alex Noren. Like I'm okay playing Alex Noren at 8,200, but Mackenzie Hughes, it does kind of feel like a reach at $8,000, but it is a limited field event, and really, almost a third of the golfers here are easy no plays. So yeah, I guess Mackenzie Hughes, I'd have to rethink this, but my gut's just telling me, like, just, if you do play him minimally. Don't play him a lot. But Mackenzie Hughes is a quality golfer, and he has some good, finishes under his belt recently. And Alex Noren I like. Jazz Jane Watananon, I don't care. Like, not that big of a deal for me. One group that probably should have got a little bit more love, they barely scored outside of that 2/3 rule, is Cameron Smith, Victor Hovland, and Garrick Higgo. Higgo has won on the PGA Tour. He doesn't have enough PGA Tour events to have strokes gain data saved. So that's, I think, one of the biggest things that's holding him from being in a marquee tee time pairing. So this group is good. I do like Cameron Smith. I do like Victor Hovland, and I don't mind Garrick Higgo either. That's just kind of how the cookie crumbles. Like, he hasn't played enough PGA Tour events, although he has a victory, and that's probably why the score is as bad as it is. And really, that's the last notable group to talk about. Let's go ahead, look at our marquee tee time pairings. So I'm going to highlight these by every third because that's obviously your games, your groupings. And talk about some of these. So I definitely think it's a good idea to kind of start your lineups here. Pick 2 golfers that you like. I don't think it really matters what salary they are, but pick 2 golfers that you like. Start there. For me, I mean, like I like Christian Bezuidenhout, and I think the group that he's playing in is really good. Like Xander Schauffele, obviously my number 1 golfer, and Abraham Ancer, I think is a very solid and smart golfer. So I think you could go with any of those guys. It would make total sense. As I look at a lot of these other groups, I'm getting drawn to the kind of the low priced guys in each of them. Like Joaquin Niemann, I like a lot. I don't really care for Mark Leishman, but I like Corey Connors a lot. I like Sung Jae Im a lot in this group, and Tommy Fleetwood probably would be my favorite golfer out of these. So all the low price guys for me in each of these pairings, I like quite a bit. But don't get me wrong, like I really do like the 10K golfers that are in each of these groups as well. So, you know, like Justin Thomas, I think it's okay to start your lineups there. If you want to start your lineups with Xander, be my guest. Like, I think that's fine. Pairing up like a Xander Schauffele with, you know, Corey Connors probably is going to be a pretty popular play, but it's a solid play, you know. And here at SweetSpot DFS, we always try to find the optimal lineup. The optimal lineup does not care about ownership. The optimal lineup does not care about salaries. The optimal lineup, it just cares about the optimal lineup. Which 6 golfers are going to score the most points under $50,000? You know, all their salaries collectively are under $50,000. So, you know, I'm not going to get wrapped up in ownership. And if you also want to, you know, hunt for the optimal lineup, I also suggest do not worry about pricing. If you want to start with a 10K golfer, I think that's smart. If you want to start with a golfer that might be 40% owned, I don't think that's a big deal. The optimal lineup doesn't care about it, so neither should you. Yeah, you know, I guess like a Schauffele, starting with Schauffele and then going to maybe a Mark Leishman, maybe that's a really good leverage point right there. You know, switching from Corey Connors and going to Mark Leishman, that's probably the way to go. But anyways, all I'm trying to get at here is if you want to start any of these 10K golfers, be my guest. I think it might be a decent play. I did go over that each of these groups, I do like the low price play. So if I'm playing a 10K golfer or a 9K golfer, you know, or I should say this, I'll probably grab one of those low price guys. So like, you know, if I start with the Matsuyama, maybe I go to Fleetwood, $8,600. Maybe I go to Bezuidenhout at 87. Like, I think those are smart ways to go about it. You know, whatever floats your boat, whatever. Ooh, I was going to say something probably inappropriate. The thing that I'm trying to get at is I don't think there's a wrong way really to start. All of the golfers that are on the screen right now are all quality golfers, so I think you should just go that route. So that is your Marquee Tee Time pairings. Do I have anything else? I mean, I could talk about a lot of things, but I don't necessarily think that I should get into the minutia of everything. Let's see here. I mean, I might just start making lineups here. Oh, no. Let's talk about grass stats. That's a smart way to go. Your top bent grass golfer is actually Mito Pereira. And we talked about him during the 3M Open. He had a 50% clip of finishing inside the top 10 and then went on and finished 6th at the 3M Open. There's a thing to talk about there that those that golfed last week in Minnesota, having to travel all the way to Japan is probably going to be pretty taxing on, you know, their effort levels or just their energy in general. I'm not too concerned about that, honestly. I think these guys they can golf whenever and can golf at a high level at a moment's notice. So someone like Mito Pereira, yeah, I probably would be a little hesitant on, but I mean, just to show, like, his bentgrass stats are really good. He only has 3 events under his belt, and 2 of them were top 10 finishes. So, well, one of them was the Barbasol Championship, so I think you can discount that a little bit. And the 3M Open kind of had a low strength of field event. There was a low strength of field event as well. So, yeah, maybe we can skip out on Mito Pereira. But we have Rory, Hideki, Colin Morikawa, Justin Thomas, Xander Schauffele. These are your top guys. All your 10K golfers are up here. And then we have another golfer that has only 2 events under his belt with decent bentgrass, overall finishes, but someone you don't really necessarily have to care about. Then we have Victor Hovland, Patrick Reed, Tommy Fleetwood, some more notable golfers. So yeah, the list here is pretty difficult to kind of try to parse out. So let's look at our top 10 bent percentage. And again, this is just a success rate. So the colors are the way they are because of Mito's 67%. But without Mito's 67, I mean, Rory would be your top guy. 40% of his bentgrass events are top 10 finishes. So if you did want to anchor around someone like Rory, I think it's actually a pretty good idea. And then it's Hideki Matsuyama. So he's obviously from Japan. This tournament is being played in Japan. He has great track records on bentgrass surfaces. Why not Hideki? Hideki would be a good play in my opinion. Although he is 7th on my ranking, it's okay. It does not bother me. I think Hideki would be a good play this week. And then you can see the rest of them. I'm not going to talk about everybody. Seeing someone like Sebastian Munoz at $7,700 with 29 events under his belt, he's pretty solid when it comes to bentgrass, and I think he's actually a pretty darn good play. And I mean, I'm a sucker for Thomas Pieters. 18% clip finishing inside the top 10. He only has 11 events, but still 18% isn't terrible. Well, I suppose that's only 2 events, so I don't know where they are, where he has them. I think one of them was at the Masters. I do remember him finishing 6th at the Masters. I don't know where the other one is. So if it's, not that great, then I apologize. But Thomas Pieters seems like a good play. Sebastian Munoz still pops out here at $7,700. I think that's a really good play. And then the other stat to look at is the 2021 bentgrass results. So we have Mito at the top. Again, he has 3 events under his belt, and they were all in 2021, so we can obviously use that. The rest of these guys, we really don't know how many events they've played in 2021 on bentgrass, but your top 10K golfers, Justin Thomas, followed by Xander Schauffele. Shane Lowry's up there. We have Abram Ancer. A lot of good golfers. There's Johnny Vegas, who obviously kind of popped. He's our 14th ranked golfer in the field. And then we have Joaquin Niemann. I mean, we have a lot of good golfers. Siwoo Kim is up here. One person I haven't seen is Sung J.M. So, I mean, we all kind of want to pull for Sung J.M., but his bentgrass stats aren't the greatest. I think that's probably all I care to talk about, really. So yeah, grass stats. I'm kind of looking at my past videos to see what I did, just to double check to see if I can do something else. Can't really talk about past optimal lineups or salaries because obviously this tournament last time we played was in 2016, and DraftKings did not have. Actually, I don't know. I don't think DraftKings had a DK contest for it. Yeah. Marquee Tea Time pairings. Let's go ahead and build some lineups just to see what we can do. Yeah, I really didn't have a script written for this, so I don't have anything notable that I want to talk about other than obviously what we just did. The bucket system is kind of my shtick, and that's kind of what I'm trying to use, in all my videos. So when I don't have it, we kind of have to do things kind of the normal way. So one thing that I should have mentioned is, yes, I do have the 3 buckets. I ranked them based off of what I typically see in a tournament. So, recent form buckets are the way they are. Usually your number one bucket for recent form is that 40 to 60 ranking or average finishing position over 7 weeks. Your number two bucket's usually your 20 to 40. Your number three bucket's usually your 60 to 80. And your number four bucket is usually the 1 to 20. I know that's kind of all over the place, but that's how I ranked the recent form buckets. The last week buckets, your number ones are golfers who didn't play last week. That usually is common throughout every single tournament. So it just fit, obviously with the Olympics. I think that's a really smart, way to think about it. Your number two bucket is usually actually, I think the number two bucket that I put this week was 1 to 20. Yeah, so there's only 2. I mean, we have 6 golfers that played last week on the PGA Tour. I don't have the European Tour stats, so obviously there's some golfers here that probably did play on the European Tour. I just don't have it. But yeah, your number 2 bucket, 1 to 20. 3 bucket are missed cuts, and then your 4 buckets, that 20 to 40 range. So that's how I did the last week buckets. And then strokes game buckets are very similar, or not very similar. They're the same as they always are. When we look at season long off the tee approach around the green and putting, if I go all the way down, everything is positive. There's not a single negative stat for any of these. When it goes to strokes gained 2, off the tee to putting, those are all positive stats. And then whatever in between ends up being your negative stats. Now, it's fun to see Rafael Campos up there, but look at his 2 stats in between. Not very good. The rest of the guys just have negative around the green. And then your number 3 bucket are positive off the tee and negative putting, which, these are a lot of your very good ball strikers and bad putters. You see Collin Morikawa, you see Hideki Matsuyama. This is just kind of your group of golfers that just hit the ball really well but can't putt. And then the opposite would be your strokes gained 4 golfers. These are the guys that aren't good off the tee but that can putt really well. So you have your Cameron Smith, your Christian Bezuidenhout, Mark Leishman, Alex Noren, Mackenzie Hughes, C.T. Pan, and Rory Sabatini. So with that being said, when I create my lineups, I want a good healthy chunk of strokes gained 1s and strokes gained 3s. Those are usually kind of where I like to start my lineups with. So if we were to start with some 10K golfers, I think the smart thing to do is use the Marquee tee time approach. So let's sort this out. Put some filters on here and start with our favorite golfers. So for me, I can just use the SweetSpot rank because it kind of provides everything. It includes everything. But I think what I want to do is make sure Joaquin Niemann is in my lineups at $9,200. It's a super good value. So I'm going to go ahead and put him right there, 92, just right away. And with that, I'm not looking to play him with other golfers that are in his group. So, I think it's Justin Thomas, Paul Casey, and Joaquin Niemann. So I don't want to select any of the other golfers there. I would much rather choose somebody in one of the other groups. And for me, I think I'm going to go with Rory. Let's go with Rory. I think that's a solid way to start lineups. Joaquin Niemann, Rory McIlroy. And now we have $7,600 to work with. We can open up this filter. Actually, let's find another 2 golfers to start with. I think I want to start with Matsuyama. And Abram Ancer. So that one has 75. And how about one more? We'll just do 3 lineups. That's fine. I think I do want to include Christian Bezuidenhout. Put him here, and then I think I want to put Collin Morikawa with him. So again, we have $7,500. So I think these are 3 good lineup or 3 lineups started with 2 decent golfers. So if we open it up for the rest of them, We just have to fit in, you know, obviously $7,500. Here's one thing that I can tell you right now. A lot of these golfers down here are kind of just automatic fades for me. So I think really anyone under $6,600 is probably going to be a straight fade. Like, I don't see anyone that I really care for. I can see some golfers I might want to play once, like Sepp Straka. I might want to play him once. I also might want to play Sami Välimäki once. And maybe Adrian Maronk, just because he has played decent, you know, not too far ago, recently he's played well. But yeah, I'm probably gonna fade a lot of these guys that are under $6,600, and I might actually fade most of these guys under $7,000. Like, the only guys that I really feel comfortable with would be these three golfers here. I kind of am a little bit of a sucker for Ryan Fox, but yeah, I could deal without any of these guys. So I think really when I make lineups, or whenever we make lineups, trying to stay above 75 or trying not to dip down in the 6K range. I think that is the key to go. But if you believe or you think there should be a 6K golfer in your lineup, obviously don't feel afraid to anchor your lineups around that guy. So I think for me, Sebastian Munoz just seems like one of those guys that I want to put in all of my lineups, so I can go ahead and do something like that. I think Antoine Rosner is an interesting choice. A lot of people will be using him. I do like Siwoo Kim, so I'm just going to go ahead and put Siwoo Kim into my lineups as well. And I'm still leaving a good, healthy, average amount. How about this? Let's do this. I'm just going to show you the different ways we can do. So we're around $7,300 for both of these lineups. I'm going to put Henrik Norlander in this group just to boost that salary up a little bit. And then in the other one, I'm just going to put someone that's really close to that $7,300 mark that we like, which obviously I think it's Johnny Vegas. That way we kind of stay around 7,300 and we have to think about who to play. In this other one, around 7,500. We really can't put anyone that's 8K or, well, we could. Could we put Carlos Ortiz? And now we have $7,100 left. Okay. So, I mean, we're looking. All right. So 78 is actually the one that we do want. And I think that's where we just put Rosner. Put Rosner right here. I think that's fine. You know, Rosner is a very solid golfer. And for the other two, we're looking at 7,300 or less. So I do like Rasmus Højgaard, although he is 41st ranked in my... I have no stats on him, really. That's one of the main causes why he's not so high. Matthias Schwab, I think, is a decent play. Jazz Janewananan isn't a terrible play either. See, maybe we can just look at their season-long DK points and kind of go off of that. So there is Mito. I think Mito's actually a good play. I'm going to go ahead and put him right here. And then for the $7,100, I'm tempted to go in the 6K range, but I kind of want to stay above here. Let's just go with Rasmus. Why not? So it looks like we might need, if we do go 10K, we're going to have to dig into these strokes gained 6 golfers, which are golfers who don't have any strokes gained point or stats because they don't have enough PGA Tour events. So yeah, I think that's the way to go. But when I make these lineups this way, these 3 golfers are looking very, very, very good to roster, especially when their rankings are pretty decent. Sepp Straka is another one that's pretty decent. I think he actually has decent bentgrass stats, right? No, he doesn't. Never mind. Very bad bentgrass. Yeah, I don't think there's really anyone down here that we really want to play. So it might be worth it just to do a balance build. I mean, starting with like Sungjae. Not Sungjae. Joaquin Niemann. I can grab all the guys that I thought was decent. Abe Answer seems like a pretty darn good play. $8,600, so that's Fleetwood and below. I mean, I like Carlos Ortiz. This just seems like a solid lineup. It seems like a really good lineup. Do something like this, and who else could we do? Maybe put a Corey Connors there and see what we have left. $9,100. Yeah, balance looks like a super good option. Wow. This is quite the conundrum because now that I see this a little bit more, oh man. You know, I don't mind a lot of these guys here. 8,400 and down. I also don't mind like a Thomas Detry. I think that's a good play. I don't know enough about Rikyu Hoshino. I'm sure he's probably from Japan, which this would be decent for him to play, to play him. Mito Pereira, again, he's coming from the 3M Open, so, I don't know how well that's going to translate. And the rest of these guys, I'm not sure. I think there's just a very short list of golfers that I'm comfortable playing. I suppose from there on, but let's see, how many total? 27 golfers. 27 out of the 60 I'm comfortable playing. So I guess take that for what it's worth, but I don't have anything else to add. We kind of just went through some lineup building right there that I think probably helps you guys out. Sorry I didn't really have anything else to provide in these videos, but it's a small field event. It happens once every 4 years. There's not a lot of data to go with it, and we're going to see new golfers qualify for this tournament every single time. So it's difficult to try to analyze this the same you would any other type of event because it just isn't. We don't even have the number 1 golfer in the world here, nor do we have the number 2 golfer in the world because they opted out of it. Well, number 1 golfer had got COVID once again, Jon Rahm, but it's difficult. It's just a fun week to play. Let's put it that way, because anything can work here. Just play your convictions, what you think is the right way to do it. And I mean, I was going to say we'll see how this ends up how it ends up going in a review video, but I'm not going to do a review video for this tournament. So pay attention to Twitter. I'll probably post it there. And if I can do anything on YouTube, I'll try posting the results there as well. But yeah, this is going to be the only video I do for the Olympics, primarily so I can catch up with some of the other things that are going on with SweetSpotDFS and just in my personal life. So that's where we are with that. Hopefully you guys do well this week. I'm pulling for you guys. Let me know if you guys do well or if you win anything. I'll shout you out in the next video if you want me to. Definitely up for doing something like that. But as for this video goes, we're done. It's a wrap. Thank you guys for watching. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we'll see you next week for the WGC St. Jude. All right, bye.